Do you love pattern paper but need more ideas for using it? Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I have the new Charming collection from scrapbook.com. I have the 6x8 size. It also comes in A2. We're going to use 6x8 today, but there are a lot of ideas for the A2, so if that's your preference, then you can go ahead and find those ideas in my channel, and I'll leave a few linked in the video description. But we're going to focus on the 6x8 size today, and when I saw this collection, you know, it's really easy to just go to florals with it, and there are a lot of great floral dies from scrapbook.com and floral stamp sets and that kind of thing, but I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to show it to you in a different way than you might see from somebody else. So I decided to go with the You're So Sweet stamp set and coordinating dies, and I decided I would stamp some oranges and lemons. These are layered dies, so you can see I was able to stamp in a light color and then a slightly darker color to add detail. I stamped the sentiment, and because the die set also includes dies for the sentiments, I was able to cut those out. And that way, when I get to the embellishing stage, I'm ready and good to go. I can just start grabbing out of my scrapbook.com tray here and putting my embellishments on the card. I did use lemonade and sunflower for the yellows and fake tan and pumpkin spice from Fawn for the oranges. And then the sentiment is also in the fake tan. Okay, so from the Charming patterned paper collection, I need to pick the papers that are gonna go best with these and maybe lean away from some of the florals. I want to make 10 cards today, so I'm going to pick 5 pieces of paper because one piece of paper usually makes 2 cards for me because I have some no scrap templates I'm going to use, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. I definitely want this orange paper. That to me is a pretty easy choice. It has solid on the back, so that'll be easy to work with, and then just those orange stripes. This other stripe and dot paper also seems great. There's no florals in sight, so we're gonna not even have to be challenged to combine the fruits and florals there. And then this one I like because it does have the oranges and yellows in it. So even though it's a floral, I think that it will look really cute with some of the colors we picked out. And I like this one. It does have some florals on the back and they are directional. So there is a clear top of the paper, but we can either use just one side of the pattern paper or we can figure out how to make directional pattern paper work with our templates today. And then this last one has yellow on the back and some flowers on the front that still coordinate pretty well. I did like. Okay, so let's go to the paper busting templates. I want to find some that will take one piece of paper and make 2 cards. I kind of have them like color coded so that I know this purple makes 1 card, this pink makes another card. But some of them you'll see there's extra colors, and that's because it makes more cards. These are all going to be labeled and linked in the video description, so if I pick a template, I will write down the name of it and put it in the video description. Template number 1 is super easy to work with. It makes 2 cards. It has a nice big area for putting my sentiment and embellishment, so I think we'll pick that one. I'm going to lean away from anything that makes more than 2 cards today, just so we can keep it simple. This one is just like too easy to work with. You make some really simple cuts. It is a little diagonal cut there, but that makes super fast cards. So we have 1 and 7 so far. I do like the idea that these ones like this that make more than 1. They do have a smaller focal area, and my stamps can be on a little bit on the smaller side, so maybe that would be a good fit, but that's something you have to consider for yourself, like, you know, what kind of scale do you like? I like this one here too because it gives me a place to put a lot of one pattern paper. So if there's a pattern paper that I really like, like say these florals are really pretty, but then I just can take another strip like this very simple yellow on the back, and that's where I can ground my sentiment. So that is always a good one. This one isn't great for directional pattern paper though, so that's always something to keep in mind, and we'll talk about that. This one could work, especially with one of those ones that's a solid on the back, but it will require a little bit of extra die cutting. So we'll take 13 and probably 14 If we find something better, I might avoid the die cutting. I can get a little lazy sometimes. And 19 has these nice long strips. It's just a little bit smaller of a focal point, but 20 is so easy. So I'm gonna pick 20 just so that we can kind of balance out the extra time that 14 will take with some die cutting. Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through cutting for each of these templates. And again, all these templates are linked below. They are free at jesscrafts.com. You can purchase them in larger packs if you don't want to deal with like having to sign up and get each one individually delivered to you. But we're going to cut each one of these. I'll show you how I organize and how I assemble to get 10 cards. I'm gonna work a little bit backwards. We'll do 20 first because 20 can work with directional pattern paper. We have these directional florals. So we start by cutting our 6x8 paper in half to 3x8. And then we need to cut a 5-inch piece off the top. Those measurements are right there on the sketch. And then you can also find measurements for cutting your cardstock mats right there on the sketch. It will say your 3x5 needs a 3 1/4 by 5 1/4 inch mat, for example. Now, there are some sketches where I think you can skip a mat, and I think this one actually works out pretty well for that. We can always test it on a card base. And maybe a mat on the square only would work out well. But once you have all of your pieces cut, you can, especially if you add the cardstock pieces, but I'm going to take the 2 card bases that I need for this and pair it with my template, and I can put it all in a folder like these scrapbook.com folders, and then that way when I'm ready to assemble, I could just pull it out of there, but I can just keep going with my cutting. So now I can move on and go to 6x8 paper busting template number 14. And this one again needs a non-directional pattern paper. So I have a lot of choices in this collection. This one doesn't look like it has a very clear top or bottom. It has a nice solid on the back, which I like. So I think we're gonna use that one next. This time we're gonna cut it in half the other way. So we're gonna cut it to 6 inches long by 4 inches wide. Then we're going to cut 3/4 of an inch off of the bottom. 3/4 of an inch off of the bottom. And then here we're going to need to cut a circle. So we're gonna get some circle layering dies and we're going to cut a circle right here out of the green side. This is going to be my main feature side here. So when I make the cut, I wanna cut it off of the side or out of the side that I'm eventually gonna use. So because I'm gonna put a green circle here, I'm gonna cut that from the center there. So I will finish that cutting off screen. Most of you know how to use a simple circle die. So we'll put those in an envelope, grab 2 card bases. I like to keep a bunch of A2 cards made in a drawer right on my desk. Go to 13. 13 is very similar to 14 in fact, because 13 is asking for the same 3/4 cut. So we're gonna start, I like this large floral here, with a 4x6 cut. Go to 3/4 off the bottom, 3/4 off the bottom, and this one calls for a mat across here, but I don't think we need it. So I'm not even gonna bother to cut a mat for that later. You'll see that for some of the other ones, I will cut a mat as according to the sketch, and we'll add that in the assembly phase. Okay, this is another one, doesn't require much in terms of mats. So let's see if I can make that work. If I cut it from this one, I think that'll work great. So let's, again, looking here at the cutting template, it says to cut it 3x8. And then again, in half, and we have 3x4 inch pieces. Then 2 of my 3x4 inch pieces need to be cut on the diagonal. So I will line up one point and another point, and make a quick diagonal chop. And what will be nice about this is I can put these here, and if you want a cardstock mat, because that works well for your pattern paper, go for it. But in this case, I can go super easy and just use this solid reverse side for my center, and then a cardstock mat is not so necessary. So put that off to the side, grab one more card base, keep everything nice and organized. And then our last but not least sketch, because we're working backwards, is sketch number 1. Again, another sketch that, while it does call for cardstock mats, might choose to skip them. In this case, maybe I would on this pattern because it's pretty busy, but this back pattern has a lot of white space, and I don't tend to like to use papers with a bunch of white space without a mat. So, starting again with that 3 by 8 inch piece. Then we're cutting a 3 by 4 for our focal point. And then 2 of those 3 by 4s, because when we cut a 3 by 4, we also make a 3 by 4. We take those and we cut it in half. So we're cutting that to 1.5 by 4 instead of 3 by 4. All these measurements are in the downloads. No worries on that. And I hope this has given you an idea of how these templates work and how you see that you're going to be able to make quite a few cards with your paper pack. So this pattern paper was non-directional because it was just dots. So that was great for this particular sketch because it needs non-directional pattern paper because you take those and you turn them on their side. So if you had flowers that were, you know, facing up here, then they would be sitting on their side. Okay, so I'll get a few cardstock mats going and we'll come back and I'll show you how we assemble and finish off our cards. So now I'm ready to assemble sketch 1. I did decide to cut mats for this particular sketch. The reason I'm not going to show you cutting all of the mats is because that isn't a no scrap method. This, you have to cut the paper pretty precisely in order to get it to work. So I wanted to make sure I explained how that process works, but then over here, you're kind of just taking solid cardstock. I went with the vacation cardstock just because I felt like I saw some similar like blues, oranges, yellows, that kind of thing from the Charming collection, although there are sometimes coordinating cardstock. So like sometimes there'll be birthday paper and birthday cardstock, or Charming paper and Charming cardstock. There isn't coordinating cardstock for this as far as I know at this point, but I did want to let you know where I got my color inspiration and my logic behind that. And then I have gone ahead and assembled one of the 2 cards that we cut so that we can focus on why I maybe made some certain design decisions that I did. That's not attached to there. So I definitely, as I went through, thought about whether an embellishment made sense as an orange or a lemon based on the colors, because sometimes it's nice to go monochromatic, like put orange on orange, and sometimes it is nice to mix it up so that it pops a bit more. And then here I am choosing to have the dots on the top and the bottom because there's a lot of white space there. And I actually think the lemon will stand out a bit more on the stripe. So that is where that decision has come in. And I did want to, you want to always turn your paper over to the opposite side to add your adhesive. I have both Artiste glue from scrapbook.com and a tape runner so that I can use a combination of those to be successful. And something that I sometimes do with cardstock scraps, so I had a little bit of this blue color left, is when I am gluing something down, and it's going to stretch across pieces that are a little bit thicker, I sometimes like to even things out by adding a bit of cardstock to the center to support it, so it's not like dipping in or looking a little lumpy bumpy, that kind of thing. So I'll place that there in the center, and then I am ready to add my sentiment and my stamped embellishment. So I do notice here that it's not standing out. Like, I mean, this yellow, it's kind of fading into it. Not a big deal, it looks totally fine, but something I could decide to do, since I did use tape runner, is I could probably get it off and flip it over, and then it would be sitting on some different colors and maybe stand out a little bit more. This is a little bit small scale, so something else you might have in your collection that would look cute for this set of cards is there's also a fruit die set. And you might find that a little bit faster, cutting them out, as opposed to stamping and then cutting out these fruit images. But that's another possibility, especially if you have some great coordinating cardstock. And then glue our simple sentiment. I definitely think there's some advantage to not having to like pause and stamp each time you want to create a card, but saying like, you know, I have this stamp set I really want to get more use of. I have this pattern collection I want to get more use of. I feel like they work well, and just kind of going for it. So that is our first set of cards. There'll be a link to that template and to all of these templates in the video description. This next one, I kind of messed up. My first instinct was actually to put this pattern in the background, but then when I got to gluing, I just accidentally glued the wrong side, and I still think it turned out really cute. This is 6x8 paper busting template number 7, and I did decide to skip the mats, so maybe I will make the second one the way I originally intended, and you can tell me which one you like better in the comments. Also, let me know, what is your, maybe in addition, what is your favorite summer drink? Do you like lemonade? I definitely feel that urge for lemonade in the summertime. I am a fan of an Arnold Palmer. I do like a little iced tea lemonade combination as well. And a frozen lemonade certainly can hit the spot as well. But that, I mean, that's a little trickier. You can't make that yourself. But buying a big old bag of lemons and making some fresh lemonade at home is a fun summer activity for me. So we're gonna add a little adhesive here on the back, and then this time we're gonna go very, very monochromatic, orange on orange on orange. I'm hoping that to the recipients it is fairly obvious that these are oranges. Maybe it looks a little less like an orange out of context. Oh, did I lose my sentiment? Nope, it's right here. That's the nice thing about staying organized, getting everything, you know, put in the little trays or folders from scrapbook.com, is that then less likely to misplace a piece in the mess that is off screen here on my desk. So, sketch number 7, 2 more cards. We've made 4 cards already. We are on to sketch number 13. I did make a few extra lemons and oranges because I tend to make mistakes. So I was like, it's good to have backups for sure. So I am going to add a lemon and an orange to some of them. So I could have made like, you know, 5 oranges, 5 lemons, had enough, exactly enough for the cards. But I knew that wouldn't be a good idea for me. I think I made 16. I even had to throw 2 out because they were a little too crooked, even for me. I'm pretty generous. I try not to get too worked up about that kind of thing. But I was like, I think we're gonna call it on that particular one. Okay, so here I thought that the lemon and orange together, I mean, I think when you see them together, certainly it is obvious what they are, that they are fruits. I think also hopefully the punny sentiment clues you in, and so I can glue all of that down to make this next card. I'm gonna speed through a little bit of this just because I think you guys, once you've seen me glue something, you get it, right? But the scrapbook.com Artise glue has been a solid glue. I enjoy that one. Okay, so this is paper busting sketch number 14. This is the one where I want to show you a little bit about how it works. So the idea behind these sketches is paper busting. So we're not going to leave any pattern paper scraps behind, but we are going to cut this circle out. So how we make this work is we are going to cut the circle out and then put it on a mat so that we can cover up that circle. Now, if we were very, very precise and we precisely centered this circle, we could come in and just place the opposite side of the circle back in. Especially in this case, I feel like the circle's a little small. Maybe if I cut a bigger circle, that would be okay. And it does look pretty centered, but that is why I did and encourage you to add those cardstock mats, because it just gives you a little room for error. Oh, did I run out of adhesive? I have a drawer of adhesive, so I've always got another scrapbook.com tape runner ready to go. Here's another area where a little scrap might be helpful. So in order to that this sticks well, not having to push it through that paper, it's pretty, like the paper is thick for pattern paper. It is almost like cardstock thickness. And so it can be helpful to give yourself a little bit of a bump up with a scrap of cardstock. It's not needed, but it's just an option. And I always like to point that out as in case you've experienced that trouble in the past where things didn't maybe stick the way you thought they would, or so you're wondering, okay, you know, what do I do with those cardstock scraps? There are ways that it can enhance your card making. So we'll put the adhesive on the floral piece, and if I were just putting this stripe across here, I might not have bothered to mat it, but then it brings in the color from this mat. So I thought that was a good idea. This is definitely a deeper yellow than my lemon, but that's okay because I think that that helps my lemon to really pop on my card. And so then we'll have 2 of those as well. I think it can be nice to make it such that your sentiment is kind of interacting with your other embellishment. So laying the sentiment slightly on top of my lemon here, or here in this other card where I've put them all kind of layered on top of each other. I think that kind of makes things look a little more cohesive, like a little kind of scene, vignette, gathering, whatever the right word for that is, on your card. I like the way that that looks rather than separating them out, but you can kind of see the difference there and go with your preference. Also, you might be the kind of person who thinks, oh, now it looks kind of awkward, there's just this blank here. So go ahead and put your sentiment down there and just leave your focal point up top, whatever works for you. Okay, last card, or set of cards. We have 6x8 paper basting template number 20. Getting tied up in my words here. And we're going to pull out those supplies. Here I did a kind of a combination. I thought, well, this green paper doesn't need a mat. But when I placed this down, it got kind of lost in the white background, so I decided to do some matte and some not. And again, the measurements for the mats are right there on the card sketch so that you can find them if you decide that that works for your particular card making. So maybe, you know, you have another collection from scrapbook.com like birthday or Mary, or I'm trying to think of some of the names of the other ones. They have fun names. And you're gonna make a bunch of cards with that one. Okay, so, and then we would add our sentiment there. I do have 2 more of these fruits. I kind of thought maybe a lemon would go good here. In this case, I did die cut my lemon kind of crooked. The way that I tend to solve this problem, if this happens, I would then decide not to put it on a card like where, like, you know, it's all by itself. Instead, it's a good opportunity to like tuck it underneath, and then you can cover that little part of the stamp, die, whatever it is, that wasn't perfect, and you don't have to completely ditch it or throw it away. And that could be a great way to save some imperfections so that you have, you know, you don't have to start all over again. So now we have completed 10 cards with the Charming Pattern Collection 6x8 paper pad from scrapbook.com. We did something a little unexpected and went with some fruits instead of the florals that are more heavily featured in the collection, kind of mix it up a bit. And we've used 5 pieces of the 40, because these are big paper pads, which is awesome. You really get a lot, so you know you can recreate cards and things like that. Good value there. So anyway, we've used 5 sheets without any pattern paper scraps, so those 5 sheets are completely gone. And you know, we could keep repeating this until we have used the whole collection. You could find some other, there are 20 6x8 paper busting templates for A2 size cards at jesscrafts.com. So you could make, you know, all 20 of them and use up 20 sheets of paper. Do it 2 times and your pattern paper pack is gone. But there's gonna be ones that you really like to use over and over again. Sketch 20, love that super fast sketch, and you can mix it up using different pattern papers, different embellishments, stamp sets, etc. If you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with the share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links, including the new Charming collection in 6x8 or A2 from scrapbook.com, as well as the You're So Sweet stamps and dies featured today. See you in the next video.